I'm actually joined here live right now by Hans Müller. He's a longtime German-Russian businessman and also former member of the Bundestag. So thanks a lot for joining us on the program. It's good to have you here. And I would just like to get your thoughts on what you think some of the major takeaways of this plenary session were. What are the most important things to take away in terms of going forward with multipolar politics, I guess?
Yeah, we became witnesses of a very historic moment. When I analyze the behavior of, for example, Vladimir Putin, he was so calm inside. Yeah, he was so convinced that everything develops into this direction of multipolarity, that this development can be reversed. Yeah, so everybody could feel during the plenary session that he is so convinced of being a motor, a driver, also part of a historic movement. And I think this will make the world, I hope, safer and easier to live in.
Yeah, he also spoke a lot about, of course, the Russian economy. He put down a number of principles, right, that Russia should follow to further develop its economy. Specifically, he spoke about what I found was most impactful was how he talked about the necessity to develop Russia at a regional economic level and a more local economic level, and develop the countryside as well. You, as a German-Russian businessman, how do you think that can be achieved in terms of creating jobs in places like these in the framework of the multipolar world?
Yeah, this cannot only be achieved. This has been already achieved partially and will be achieved more. For example, for myself, I became witness during the years of 2021, 2022, when I was part of the management of a newly constructed factory in Bashkortostan. You know, Bashkortostan is a Russian region, and a very well-developed region. And it is not true when people say from the West, okay, they have some nice places in Moscow and Petersburg. What about the country? Yeah? I traveled a lot throughout Russia, not only to Bashkortostan, also to other regions. And everywhere you see this, what is it called? Zolotaya Likhoradka, it's called in Russian. I don't know what is it in English. You know what happened in Sacramento when somebody found gold in 1848? The gold rush, that is the word I was looking for. I feel everywhere here in Russia now this atmosphere of gold rush, and it's very inspiring.
Yeah, I have to say I agree with you in terms of that. And I mean, that kind of atmosphere in the Russian economy is demonstrated by the statistics that Russian President Vladimir Putin brought up at the panel that just took place. I mean, he was talking about how the Russian economy has essentially defied all of the so-called experts in the West that said the Russian economy was going to collapse after sanctions. I mean, one of the other things that the Russian president mentioned was that in the first quarter of this year, the economy of Russia grew over 5%. That's a colossal achievement. Let's take a listen to more specifically what Vladimir Putin said about the Russian economy.
Last year, as you know, Russia's GDP growth was 3.6%, and in the first quarter of this year it was 5.4%. In other words, our rates exceed the global average. We have set a goal of becoming one of the 4 largest economies in the world. By the way, according to some data, including estimates by the World Bank, just last week the World Bank made additional calculations and put Russia in 4th place. We ended up ahead of Japan.
Yeah, sorry, I mean, we lost connection, but this is a really important panel that took place with Russian President Vladimir Putin and 2 other really important leaders of the multipolar world, the presidents of Zimbabwe and the president of Bolivia as well. So just so our viewers remember who I was talking to here, this is Hans Müller. He's a German-Russian businessman, and he was also a former member of the Bundestag. So I'm very glad that we're able to continue our conversation. But let's, like I said, start where we left off. I wanted to understand what you thought about where the German economy could be right now if it decided to get with the multipolar program. Because again, I mean, it's pretty much suffering as a result of Washington's policies that it's pressuring Germany into following with regard to sanctions and the Ukraine conflict as well. So what are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are very clear that cutting off cheap and reliable Russian energy resources and being forced to impose sanctions against Russia is more or less a program of liquidization of German economy. Germany cannot recover under these circumstances. It's impossible. I'm really horrified by seeing my country, German economy, running into a dead end, and this dead end is not defined by ourselves. This dead end is defined by the big brother from the United States. And in order to recover economically, we must really cut off this dependency on the United States. The only future I see for my country now is really stepping out of NATO, stepping out of European Union, because both are only instruments of U.S. hegemony over Europe, really in order to restore Germany, also mentally. It's very important. President Putin mentioned that economy is not everything. To build up economy, you have to have a mental basis. This mental basis has completely disappeared in Germany. Yeah? So we have to heal Germany mentally, and then we can recover German economy. And in my opinion, this is only possible in a very close ties together with Russia, again buying Russian cheap and reliable energy resources, getting rid of the sanctions, getting rid of the determination of German destiny by Washington. We are Germans, we have to determine our destiny ourselves.
Just one more question for you, Mr. Mueller. One thing that I thought was very interesting, I'm sure many people agree with me, is that the Zimbabwean president said that he plans for his country to be an upper middle income country by 2030. Now, that sounds really ambitious, but at the same time, another thing he mentioned is that it's one of the most rapidly growing economies in the region, actually. And this seems to be part of one aspect of its integration and further cooperation with the multipolar world, now that we're seeing this shift across the world. I mean, how do you think the world could look if the parts that are dominated by Western pressure and sanctions and everything right now, what if we took that out of the equation? What do you think the world, the developing world specifically, could look like without that kind of pressure?
The developing world, or the so-called third world country, they had been living for centuries under this pressure. And only now, because of the opportunity that BRICS offers to these countries, now they have come to some kind of consciousness that, we are better off joining BRICS than bending down before the West. So I only can recommend to each country, to every country, to each of them, join the BRICS, because BRICS is nothing where somebody dominates the other one. It's very, very important to know. It must not be replacing one hegemony by the other hegemony. This doesn't make sense. The Western world is dominated only by the United States. The BRICS world has several centers. Has China, has Russia, has India, has Brazil. Yeah? And if the more smaller countries like Zimbabwe or now Bolivia join the BRICS, the more important will become the weight of these small countries altogether, that they won't be dominated neither by China, nor by Russia, nor by India. So this is a real democratic way of rebuilding world economy. I'm fond of it, and I hope also for Germany, for my country, to understand it and to join this new movement, together with Zimbabwe and all the other countries.
Yeah, it's definitely really important, and fascinating analysis you gave us here on live television. Thanks a lot, Hans Mueller.